Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network is with us. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com always as well. Mike, the new AP poll out, of course. Houston at the top with our old friend Kelvin Sampson. First time since 1983. I guess Guy Lewis. The Cougs are at the top. Back in the oh man, those were some fun days. That was back in Houston and Louisville and North Carolina. I'm trying to think back in that run. Daggone it, who was it? That was Phi Slamma Jamma.
The team and Clyde Drexler and Larry Musa. Absolutely.
Jeez. Boy, that was a good time, a good run for them. But they've had a pretty daggone good run over the last couple of years. And Kelvin Sampson, I talked about this earlier. I know a lot of IU fans are still got the red eye, and I'm like, I couldn't care less about what he does, where he is. I don't care. But he's doing a hell of a job at Houston. I mean, that's not the easiest place to get a number one ranked basketball team these days, but he's done it, and it wasn't just this year. So he's doing a hell of a job down there.
He is. I will say this, and I have said this. I don't think I've ever said it directly to Kelvin, although I have written it where he could see it. I think he was a terrible hire for Indiana, but a phenomenal basketball coach. I was at Washington State where I first noticed him. I watched them play up there when he had Mark Hendrickson, and they were tremendous. And I'll be honest, at that point, when I was young in my college basketball coverage, I'd never been to Pullman and didn't know much about it, and didn't know, like, it's not easy to win there. And then I visited there for a game.
Not even easy to get there.
Right. I visited there. I was up in Spokane for a Gonzaga game on a Saturday against Stanford in 2006, I think it was, when they had Adam Morrison. And so myself and Andy Katz and I think Dick Weiss drove down from Spokane to Pullman, and it is not an easy place to get to, and it is not a place that a lot of people go out of their way to get to. And so to win basketball games there is really an accomplishment, and Kelvin showed that then, and then he did a great job at Oklahoma, and he was the exact wrong person to hire at Indiana at that time, especially under the circumstances he was in, where they had an active NCAA investigation, and so it wasn't going to please particular members of the Indiana alumni or fan base to do that, first of all. And then when things got a little sour, it became an escalated situation, and things happened to the IU basketball program that set it back for a decade. Even though Tom was able to get Victor and Cody and win that championship, I still believe that in general it set the program back a decade.
Easily.
Because it just stopped the program in its tracks. And like I said, Tom did a phenomenal job in getting them to a Big Ten title in the short period of time that he did, and to a number one seed. And but it just changed the way IU basketball, sort of its stature within college basketball when all of that went down in 2008. So I think they're still recovering from that. Although I think that, they're at a point now where they might be on, when you're starting to get 5-star guys in again, that's when you have the chance to be what you want to be. If you don't have those kinds of players, it's really hard to do that. So I'm glad to see that IU's been able to start to move in that direction. It goes back, obviously, to Trace, to Romeo before him, Trace, and now the two that they have on the team now, in addition to Trace. You're starting to see a team that is capable of challenging anyone. And so tomorrow night, what's interesting about that matchup is that it's not what we expected it to be. It's still as challenging a game as it ever was.
It may be more dangerous. I told somebody else, I said, hey, man, they may be more dangerous because they've gotten beaten. They may be more hungry. It may have woken them up. It may have made them mad. Whatever you need to generate that in yourself, they've got it.
Yeah. It's not a new phenomenon, because the nature of college basketball, the best teams work to be great from the beginning of practice and all of that. That's how you get there. But there are certain teams, and I think this was true of Carolina 09, that they felt like, I mean, we know we're better than everybody else, and they didn't really start working on getting great. They were what they were, very, 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 very good day one, and they didn't really start working on getting great until probably January, February of that year, maybe when they saw Duke in the horizon. And then eventually they became one of the great championship teams of the last 25 years. I think this team had the handicap of knowing they were bad last year. I mean, they got beat 30, 20, 25 plus, I think 5 different times or something like that. Kentucky did it. Miami did it. Wake did it. Maybe I don't have the exact right numbers. They lose to Pitt in early February of last year. Pitt won, I think, 6 ACC games. They lose on their home court to that team, and they still go out and make the final. I think that's an obstacle that you have to overcome. You think, well, we'll get to it. We'll get there. I think that's an obstacle to overcome. And now that switch could have flipped on Sunday or Monday when they got into practice. Like, okay, enough of this fooling around. Now it's time to play because we've seen what happens when we don't. That's part of it. But the other part of it is they don't have any depth right now. They've got 5 guys that are playing, and all their 5 starters, at least from an offensive standpoint, have been fine. Not sure they've all been at their level, but they've been fine. But there hasn't been anything beyond that. They have Puff Johnson, a kid from Pittsburgh who was the sixth or seventh man, maybe 8th man last year, who's a big wing who can play it as a small 4. He missed a lot of preseason with an injury. He's a really good shooter. Could potentially become an excellent shooter. And he missed a lot of their preseason with, I think it was a knee. And so on Sunday, when they played Alabama in the consolation out in Portland, and they went, I think, 105-101 in 4 OTs. He finally played 40-plus minutes, and he scored 10 points. So at least they now maybe feel like they have a 6th guy to go with the 5 regulars.
Dustin, Indiana's strength of schedule, man, is going to take a skyrocket this year. 7 different opponents currently in the top 25, 3 in the top 10 that are coming up. So that's definitely going to jack your numbers up.
Yeah, we're going to see what this team is made of when you've got North Carolina, Kansas, Arizona, and by the way, you've still got Rutgers and Nebraska in Big Ten play coming up. So I wanted to ask Mike, I know we're early in the season, just a couple weeks in here, but has there been a team that stood out to you more than some of the others? Because I think coming into this season, there was an idea that it was Indiana, Illinois, and then maybe the rest of the pack, maybe Michigan State creeps in there. But the way Wisconsin has played, especially defensively, they look pretty good. Iowa's done some good things early in the season. Maryland, I remember Stephen Bardo, your colleague at Big Ten Network, came on during Big Ten Media Days and said Maryland's going to be a team that's a dark horse. Watch out for them. They've got some guys. They're in the top 25. So has there been a team or a couple teams that have stood out to you most here in the early going of the season?
Well, I always thought Purdue was going to be really good. I'm not surprised. I've said from the beginning that obviously you'd love, and I think I even said that to you guys a week or 2 ago, that you love to have Jaden Ivey. He's a game changer, and you can't have enough of those kinds of guys if you can get them.
If they had Jaden Ivey, they'd probably be the number 1 team right now.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. But what I'll say is that with the exception of losing a talent like that, being in the position they are now is an advantage over where they were a year ago. I strongly believe they had too many good players last year, and that it's really hard to manage that. And I've never seen anybody really carry that all the way home. Kentucky 15 had 2 starting lineups that could have won the championship if you took them and gave them 2 good reserves. Either one of those starting lineups would have been in contention for the championship. And put together, they didn't win it. They won every other game until they played Wisconsin in the semis, but then they couldn't overcome that. It just doesn't. It's just hard to do when you have that. Now you've got a normal rotation. The young players are young and so there's still things that they have to learn. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, but they're played really well. They've done some really good things, and they've gotten to the point now where Zach Edey is really incorporated in what they do, instead of, okay, now we're doing this and now we're doing that, which is what they did last year when they had Travion Williams. Two completely different teams, because now, of course, you're still a little different when Zach goes out now, because he can't play 40 minutes. But before it was team A, team A. Now it's, okay, this is our team with Zach, and this is what we have to do to fill in while we don't have Zach. And so that's kind of it's a different approach in that way. And I think it works better for team flow and chemistry. And so I'm not surprised at all that they're really good. Now, am I surprised they went out and clocked Duke by 20? Yeah, a little bit surprised. But the league itself, here's what's going to happen. I don't know what the number is going to be, but we're going to get to March, and they're going to have done all this stuff. And I don't know how this week will go, but to date, everything has been phenomenal from the Big Ten. But we'll get to March, and people will be complaining that they're getting 8 or 9 teams, as if this all did not happen. Right. Of course, it's happening. The scores are right there, and that doesn't guarantee you that you then go play well in March. And my theory has been that it actually maybe hurts you. To have a league like that, when all of a sudden you think Maryland, new coach, weren't very good last year. Okay, they come into our gym, we'll house them, it'll be a W. Nope, that game's going to be a hard game. Penn State building under a new coach, second year, that'll be a game. They come in their gym, we get nope. You're going to have to play. So you're not going to have many of those nights in this league where you can just say, we're home. Let the crowd do most of the work. We put out our B effort, C effort, and we'll be fine. Now, that's been the problem in the Big Ten over the last couple of years. They have not had those nights.